I kind of did a minor in theater. So I was always trying to kind of find a creative outlet, you know? And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to apply again for architecture.
What inspired you to create the furniture company? Okay, you were producing the pieces, but then you properly created a business.
I started designing the furniture when I was in the military. And one of the first things that I actually drew in that sketchbook, apart from all the military stuff, is Spike.
So I do believe that furniture, definitely, we don't pay that much attention, but it does have a sentimental value. Well, in our case, especially in our field, and especially if you understand the value of the furniture.
Yeah.
I can just imagine how your sketchbook looks like. Do you often go back into that sketchbook and say, this is my next?
Yeah,
you know?
I do all the time.
Hi, Shad, how are you?
Hi, Valeria. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. How's your week? Just say it. Just spit it out. Say it.
It's almost over. One of the projects that we are very hands-on.
That's
it's
good.
coming to an end. So I hope by next podcast, I will not say that it was stressful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But today we have a really nice, cool guest.
Yes.
An Emirati designer, Omar Al Gurg. He perfectly blends functionality with his furniture and artistry. So let's dive in. And yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Omar.
Hi, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Nice to have you
Good.
here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, amazing.
Very excited.
You're a very interesting person, Omar.
Okay.
I think no, when I came to Dubai, you were one of the first person that came up on my feed and on my, so I've been a little bit stalking you from a little bit of the start of my journey in Dubai, at least.
That's nice to hear.
I'm very, very interested in creating furnitures, and I studied in Italy, so for me, furnitures was very close to my heart,
Yeah,
and that's why I
same.
think I get along so well with your husband as well.
Right.
So furnitures has always been something that lays close to me, but I haven't really myself completely developed it. I see you as a very creative person, and you come up with very cool ideas, and something very interesting that you do is that you really take your culture and your background that you have and merge it into whatever you're creating with your company. I believe you've always been a very creative person as a child.
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell us maybe a little bit about how growing up,
How that came about.
how did that come about? Yeah.
As a child, I used to always find things to do. I used to always spend time in the garden, like pick up plants, try to make little potions when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Harry Potter, all of that stuff. I was very much like an outside child, and then one day, I think I was 11 years old, I saw my sister using her camera in the garden. And then I got a little bit jealous, and then I asked for a camera for myself as well. And I started learning photography, and I started buying books from these bookstores that would give you tutorials on how to take photos, and I would try to imitate all of these different photos. So that's where I started practicing the creativity. But I think I started to realize that I was interested in all of these creative things when I was much younger. I say much, but probably three
I'm not going to comment on that.
But it was because my aunt, she used to take me to museums. I used to spend a lot of time in London, and we would travel to like Italy or whatever. And then she would take me to museums, and I would learn about, the Renaissance, and I would learn about all of these things at like the age of 8.
Wow. Very creative background.
Yeah. And then I would read books
aunt.
every single week, So I think it really fed my mind in a way where I was able to access the creative side more than I was able to access the strategic and logical side.
What would in your childhood be the thing that would grasp you and take you on the journey of a creative mind?
It would definitely be the museums and the photography, because the museums really affected the way that I saw the world,
Right.
And then the photography, I tried to kind of show other people how I would see the world by replicating maybe the lighting from a Renaissance painting. Or so I have a lot of old photographs.
Oh, that must be amazing.
At what age are we talking about here?
This is when I started getting a little bit better.
Okay.
So I would say maybe about 15 years old, like that.
Still young.
Yeah,
still
still
very
young,
young.
still relatively young. I remember I had my first kind of like photography gig or job at 16.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fashion shoot as well, so that was interesting. I had an exhibition as well at 16 for photography, so there was a lot of art as well that
Involved
yeah.
at young age.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to pursue a career in architecture? Or
So I
Yeah.
always wanted to do architecture. I think I actually applied for architecture at the American University of Sharjah, and then they said, "Oh, you have to do a foundation year." And I come from a very fast-paced family, and we had no patience for a foundation year. They were like, "Listen, just do business," and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do business." So I did business for about a year and a half. And I quickly realized that it really isn't for me. But also what I realized about business is that you really learn it in the field.
Right.
You know, like you learn a lot about business when you're working, you know?
Right.
Definitely.
And because I was suffering with the business course, you know, I studied business management, I kind of did a minor in theater. So I was always trying to kind of find a creative outlet, you know? And there was a little bit of design, you know, there was set design, there was all of that stuff in theater. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to apply again for architecture. And I got into a school in London. And then I told my family. So they didn't know about this. I told my family afterwards. And then they said, okay, listen, if you want to go, at least pick a good school. So then we ended up finding a really good school in Belfast and Queen's University.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And then I continued to do architecture because I always wanted to do... I always thought of buildings as kind of like a giant sculpture that you could walk into and use.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a form of art,
Yeah,
definitely.
again, it's a form of art, but it's more functional in a way.
Yeah.
Photography, you spoke a little bit about photography.
Yeah.
In university, I don't know about you guys, but in our university, we had a photography class.
We
you
had a
know?
class as well.
Yeah. So did your background in photography and art, because for me also art is very close to my to myself, you know, and I find a lot of inspiration through the art and through the different eras. When we're talking about photography and set design, because you scraped a little bit on about the set design when you're talking about theater. How did that journey pass you through to what today MODU is?
So I think with the photography aspect especially, you know, so I was, first of all, I was always surrounded by very talented people, you know, and I always learned from them. One of my friends, she studied filmmaking, so she kind of would introduce me to these like aesthetically pleasing, you know, films.
Right.
And I always look at photography as like kind of like when you're setting up a render for your project, right? You set up the frame, you know what the focal length is going to be, which angle you want it to look like, because you know that this is the set that you want, and you set it up in a way where it looks alive, right? I think that's where the photography helped with the design aspect of things. It's helping me fill in the blanks in spaces, you know, and I really like to, contrary to creating the big building, I really love to focus on the details.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I come from a family of no patience, right? so I don't have enough patience sometimes to wait for 3 or 4 years for a building to come up. So then I started turning to furniture, you know, because it's more instant as well. It's like instant gratification.
And it's faster.
I
Well,
love
it is much
That's
faster.
crazy. That's so true, actually.
Yeah.
I would like to go into that family now and see the dynamics and see how
what's
it works. Can
the
you tell us a little bit about
creative
that?
business?
Yeah.
When you talk about
We're fast-paced, you know. Everybody's always doing something. Everyone always has a project. Growing up, you know, I mean, my mom and my dad were workers. My dad was a hematologist. My mom still works till today. She is a leading businesswoman in the region. She's very, you know, she's an inspiration to me as well. My sister, I remember at one point she used to work for Omar, and Omar is a very fast pace.
Yeah, MR is fast.
Omar is fast, you know. Both of my brothers work in the family company as well. So there's always work talk happening even at home, you know. So you're always in that mode of work, or if so then subconsciously, I guess what it does to you is that you think, okay, if I'm not doing anything, I'm not doing well. You know?
You need to keep up, and in this family, you have to be fast.
You have to be fast and you have to keep up. And I'm a lot of people from my family are actually also creative, you know. So one of my sisters is jewelry designer. The other one, she does calligraphy and graphic design and screen printing.
You guys, you've covered it all, from medicine to the jewelry design.
And get this, my dad as well had a a film developing studio at home.
Wow.
So he was also a photographer. So I learned a lot of things from my dad and from my sister.
Yeah, it's the best way to learn also the old school, how you develop.
Do you feel like when you go home that you guys can inspire each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was a point where all of us were, inspiring each other in one way or another. Until today, we still do, of course, you know. But I don't think it happens as much as it used to, because everyone kind of has their own little life now.
Their own pathways, their own,
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about MODU Method that you created in, 2021?
Yes.
2021.
So 2021, I think.
Yeah. What inspired you to create the furniture company? Okay, you were producing the pieces, but then you properly created a business,
yes.
right?
Yeah. So I started designing the furniture when I was in the military. I was doing my national service.
Yeah, I've read about this. Yeah.
So I wish I brought my sketchbooks, but I started it in the military because I wanted to exercise my brain. I was like, okay, I can't let this creative side of me die. So I started thinking of like common household inconveniences, and then I was like, okay, how can I solve it with furniture? And I thought this was like a fun exercise for me. And one of the first things that I actually drew in that sketchbook, apart from all the military stuff, is Spike, you know?
Spike.
Yeah, the coat hanger. And then one day I decided, you know what, let me just make it. It's there. I feel like it works. I like it. I want it, you know, so let me make it.
That's very brave as well, you know?
To kind of go out of your way and to just be like, you know what, let me just bring something into this world that has, I don't know, if anything else out there looks like Spike, probably there probably is something, but we'll see.
Yeah, we need to check. No, I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen any. I used to work for Roberto Paoli in Italy. I worked in his studio, and he's a famous product designer. So he would do a lot of furnitures and items. So I learned a lot from him, but I actually never seen.
That's good news.
Anything similar? Yeah, same. To be honest, I've never seen anything.
And that's very, very difficult because nowadays a lot of furniture looks similar.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to be having that niche and people will remember.
I think the trick is to not leave, kind of something in your mind while you're designing, you know, like not think of a reference, you know, and actually think of the function of the piece while you're designing it, you know? So you think about the shape and you think about why you want it to be that shape. Is it just for aesthetics? Does it have a function? And there's no right or wrong, you know? And I think that's what I was doing with each of these sketches. And then after I made Spike, you know, I decided, you know, let me make another piece, which is Jean, right? And I started posting Spike and Jean online, and people were very receptive towards it. And I was like, great, this is amazing news. And then the opportunity came for downtown design, and it was the UAE designer exhibition.
I think that was the first time I actually saw your work at downtown.
Yeah. And the curator, Ghassan, we were in touch with each other, and he said, listen, like, why don't we display Spike, you know? Or was it I applied? I don't know. Don't quote me on this.
No worries.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I applied. I'm not sure. But anyway, Spike and Jean both ended up at the UAE Designer Exhibition. And because I wanted to do it right, I was like, shoot, now I need a brand. You know, I was like, I don't want them to just go like, oh, this is Omar Al Gurg's design. I want them to attach it to the name, which is easy to remember, which is MODU.
Is it MODU Method?
MODU Method.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about it. Like, why method?
So MODU is short for modular, and method basically means way of living. So the modular way of living, basically, if you would dissect the name in that way.
Very mid-century modern vibes.
Yeah. And we call our pieces articles.
Yeah, articles. Yeah, articles. I know. And he or she, you pronounce.
Yeah, we give them personality.
Personality,
you know, that kind of thing, because
very cool.
We want to kind of focus on the whole sentimental aspect of the furniture, you know. We spend a lot of time on furniture, you know. know, whether it's in our cars, we're sitting down in a seat. Right now, you know, there's a coffee table, it's holding our water, whatever, all of that. So we use furniture a lot more than we actually realize we use it. So it's very important for me to kind of develop that relationship between the person and their furniture, which is why I want to make everything super interactive. You have to move it around to make it do something. You have to, you know, and because you interact with it more, it develops more of a sentimental relationship between you and that piece. And that's why we give it names, because, you know, Spike is now a part of your family, you know,
That's
that
right.
kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have pieces like this in your home that they've been with you for years?
I've been a nomad for the last 15 years.
Yeah, but now...
So I feel like I don't have anything the past 15 years that's been with me, to be honest. So this is a quite interesting question, actually. I don't think I have one single furniture piece that has...
been with you, traveling with you.
Sweden to Norway, from Norway to Rome, from Rome to Milan, from Milan to Dubai. So it was a lot of, you know, traveling around. Yeah. Me living in Italy was university, so I didn't really need a lot of you know, furniture around me.
We have a lot. We have quite a few pieces.
Well,
like that.
I mean, it
with
makes
you
sense.
on this.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Not only that we collect pieces that are not just the pieces that Mossen represents, for example, but also we have pieces that we collect from Vitra, you know, and from other brands that have value. But we also have quite a few pieces that's been with us for years, and they do have sentimental value. You know, whether it's like a Zanotto sofa, it's been with us through so many things, through our first son was born, second son. So I do believe that furniture, definitely, we don't pay that much attention, but it does have a sentimental value. Well, in our case, especially in our field, and especially if you understand the value of the furniture. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your pieces. Okay. There's so many interesting names. There is Spike, there is New, and your latest creation, Coco. Yeah, that's kind of my favorite piece. That's the piece I want to have in my home as well. Yeah.
Coco. Actually, funny you say bath.
Yes.
Because we were in between calling it baño or Coco.
Yeah, it looks like
it looks like a bathtub.
I tried it.
It looks like a child. You know when you put newborn childs, you have a
crib.
smaller.
No,
not a crib. You know when you bathe them and you have a smaller.
Bath.
Bathtub. It looks almost.
I mean, you can use it for a few things, right? It's like a rocking chair.
Rocking chair.
Someone wanted to put ice in it and put beverages inside. So you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. You know, it depends. Spike. So I said I always design when I think of an inconvenience. So I think of a particular inconvenience. In Spike's case, it would be clutter. You know, everybody has that chair that they, you know, their clothes that are like not too dirty but not too clean, and they're like, okay, let me put it aside. So and then it piles.
Everyone except Valeria.
I don't have that chair. I was looking at two of you, and I was like, I would just have a Spike for a beautiful just be there, like a beautiful artifact.
You know what's funny?
It's beautiful.
It's because I know a couple, and they have two Spikes. Okay, they have one. One is in the man's bedroom, and one is in the woman's bedroom.
Yeah.
The one that's in the woman's bedroom is completely clean. She has one thing hanging on Spike, and in the guy's bedroom, it's like completely. Wardrobe, not bedroom. Yeah. But it completely like. Cluttered. Like there's so much on Spike, you know, and you can see how he uses it. He's like, oh, but it's meant to be used, and she's like, no, but it's meant to be pretty.
But for him, it's a convenience.
It's a convenience,
yeah.
Which is so interesting when it comes to furniture, and that's so interesting that you're bringing that up, because for me, a furniture should be a convenience, and that's the reason for why I have it. Even though I might choose something that aesthetically looks beautiful, I try to always have things around me that make sense. We moved into Marquis Square many years ago, and we live in a corner unit, and the corner unit has a triangle edge. And when we went in to look at the showroom apartment, there was no dining table. And we were like, oh, where's the dining table? And they were like, oh, there's no space for a dining table, you know. Either you choose a bigger sofa, and you can sit on the bar. And I'm like, I love to host people. You know, that's one of my things to do.
Yeah, home
and
not
I
a home
saw
without
so much
dining.
dead space, so I designed my own table. So I got the layout of the house, and I created a triangle table that would fit in perfectly within that corner. And everyone that comes now and the building that made it, they were like, "Oh,
There is a solution."
Can we put this in our showroom, the apartment showroom, so people actually
Yeah.
can?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But it's amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because it's inconvenient, but then you came up with a creative solution to
Yeah.
kind of fill in that spot and make it convenient,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's how us as human beings we thrive, right? That's why we
Yeah.
create so many different things, or we come up with so many different things. It's because we
So
need
true.
something, and we don't have it, so
We create.
we create, right? But yeah, I think that's what I do with most of the products. So we moved into this show villa, and because there were so many things that were missing, and I didn't want to put anything that wasn't MODU, you know, in the show villa, I had many placeholders, but I designed to replace those placeholders as
With
well,
MODU.
with MODU products.
This is leads to my next question, actually.
Yes.
You've created this kind of majlis. Is that majlis?
Yes.
Yeah. Majlis space that you not only you open it to design community, you open it to your clients, right? Anyone can come and see the space, you know, and see all the products. And how does it affect? Why did you do that? Did you do it to create this, creative ecosystem around the furniture?
I wanted to do a few things, right? I needed a showroom.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't want the showroom to be your like white walls and concrete and here are the products, because then it went against the concept of MODU, right? It was like, I want people to actually experience the furniture and interact with it. So how do I make people interact with it? Place it in a home setting, you know? So I made it feel as if people were walking into my own home. And I also wanted to foster a little bit of the design community. I wanted people to come in, exchange ideas with each other. I wanted to host people there.
Yeah.
And again, like when people see the space and the more time they spend over there, the more they kind of fall in love with their surroundings. Thank God.
Yeah. Imagine if it was otherwise.
But again, that is your background that you're incorporating into
Yeah.
a space.
Your
Yes.
culture.
Your culture.
Yes.
You're bringing in the
Hospitality.
whole
Hospitality.
Yes,
Definitely.
yeah. I think the culture aspect of it all is very subconscious for me. You know, it's. I grew up in a house which was full of culture, of course, and we have our values and all of that stuff. So I think whenever I'm designing something, it's always in the back of my head. I never consciously do it, but I always end up having to solve like a cultural kind of like, not problem, but opportunity. You know?
The whole, setup with the majlis that you also are sort of sitting on the floor and, you're welcoming everyone and you can sit and share. And it feels in a sort of a little bit American.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit American. I get Studio 54 vibes. They had the big sofa group and people would go
they
there,
had their
they
little
would
sunken
sit.
seating,
Yeah.
That feels very, Western. I don't know if you had that in your mind or if it was just, intentionally to have, the traditional seat of that we bring out maybe to the desert or the...
I think it was a mix of everything, right? I mean, I like to think that I'm well traveled, that I've been to so many different places. I got to experience a few cultures, but also a prominent part of the design was my grandfather's lifestyle, So my grandfather was a diplomat. Not only was he, head of the family business, but he was a diplomat. He was the ambassador of the UAE in London. And his house was built in the 70s, in the mid to late 70s. And when you walk into his house, it's carpet, first marble, right? Fountains, and then the walls are like silk textile, but like thick threads of silk. And we used to be very naughty with that wallpaper. We used to pull the silk, and they would be very angry at us as kids. But you walk in, and it's a completely different vibe. You forget where you are. It's very homey, it's very thoughtful, it's very warm, and I wanted to kind of replicate that feeling of warmth in the space. So the first thing I make people do is I make them take off their shoes. then they walk into the house and it's a little bit darker. It's dimmer. So their eyes adjust a little bit. They relax. And because they've taken off their shoes, they get to feel the space as well.
Right.
You know, there is that silk wallpaper. There is the carpets that are not only wall to wall, but floor to ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, people love to touch the walls. People love to like walk on the carpet.
Tactile, yeah.
Tactile. It's very
definitely.
tactile,
Yeah.
you know. And we also love to play with, you know, senses as well. You know, like there's the sense of smell. So there's always incense in the house. In my grandfather's house, it was bukhur, you know, and there's always music that's playing. So it's very, it's kind of like you walk into a movie scene.
Yeah.
And not only do you like forget where you are, but you also kind of forget when, you know,
Yeah.
you are. I don't know if that's the correct way of saying it,
Yeah.
but you forget the time and place.
It definitely brings back your photography background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about it as a movie scene, you
Movie
know?
scene, yeah.
And I think because I had these friends that were film buffs, you know, I got to see all of these different movie scenes. And I was like, I want to recreate something that resembles a scene
That.
from a movie. It wasn't particularly anywhere in specific. Some people even describe it as a little bit Japanese.
Okay. Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, if I'm being honest. But I know that I like to make things that look like scenes.
It does look like a movie scene. And I like the idea that everything is just created by you, you know, in the space. I think this is just it's amazing.
I think it takes us back a little bit to your theater
Yes.
and, you know, the set design, and, you know, you have that frame that you were talking about, the framing of a photo or of a
Yeah.
movie. So I think maybe unconsciously you created something that has that feeling. Or maybe when you went into your grandparents' house and then you have that picture.
Memory.
Yeah, maybe.
Rolling back, you know, the touch and the feel. I'm trying to, when you're talking, I'm trying to go back to my grandparents' house
Yeah.
and try to, you know, imagine how was it, what was the smell, what was the...
Yeah, you know, did your grandparents have like a carpet in the bathroom as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still
Yeah.
carpets in the bathroom in my grandfather's
Yeah.
house, you know?
Interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I do not love it.
I like this old school
Yeah.
feel.
There's a lot of
it's
old school
character.
stuff
It has
that is
a lot of character.
Yeah, definitely. Craftsmanship
Yes.
is super important. You know, a lot of people forget about the actual craftsmanship and stuff. Or when I see your pieces, I can really see how much thought of material, of, you know,
Research.
production, research, it's gone to it. And when you've created all of these very, very interesting pieces, tell us a little bit about, I'm so interested in knowing, how does the journey go from A to Z? When you sit
Yeah.
and you say, I'm making a sketch in your book, how does that end up being an actual product?
If I'm being very honest here, it's very erratic. You know? So we don't always start at A, you know?
Do you always produce in UAE? That's
Most of the things,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm
so
curious
there's
about that.
one product that is made in Jaipur currently,
Yeah.
which is the rugs that we have.
Yeah.
But we are starting to produce things outside of the UAE.
The pills, the
chill pills.
The chill pills.
Yeah, because I realized that the UAE is very good for. I mean, I try to make as many things as possible in the UAE. I try to make, you know, even if it's not produced in the UAE, the business that I'm working with is based in the UAE. So there's always a support element, you know, for the businesses in the region. But sometimes, you know, we don't have the facility to be able to make the thing that you want to make in the UAE. So there are times when I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe I should go abroad. Maybe I should make these things somewhere else, you know? So yeah, that I think answers the UAE question, right? So we try to make everything here.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now that maybe it's not possible to make everything here.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about process, sometimes I start at C and then go to U and then and then go back to A and then, you know, and there are products that start at A and end at Z, you know, and it's very easy.
Yeah.
Almost every single time. No, every single time the starting point is the sketchbook.
Right.
You know, there's always a sketch.
Yeah.
The sketch happens and I can almost see the materials that I want to use for this piece, and I can imagine it. But then when I try to use that material, sometimes that material doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And then I said this once, but people thought I was crazy, but I'm going to say it again.
Say it.
We always, look at the product and we decide what material to use for that product, but we never look at a material and we never ask it, what does the material want to be, know?
True.
So you need to also realize the extent of the material, like
And
how far can you
durability.
push it, you know?
Yeah.
And the durability,
Yeah.
exactly. So sometimes the material just doesn't work for that particular product. And then we go back to the drawing board and then we have to use another material. But because of this other material, the product changes in shape a little bit.
What was crazy about that? Why did people think you were crazy when you said it?
Because they thought it was too poetic. They were like, what do you mean ask material what it wants to be? Like, you know?
No, I completely understand.
I think that's
for
the
sure.
right
Yeah.
way to, when you work with
Yeah.
the different materials, and especially for us as designers, architects, that's the only way.
But is it always you being in a situation and saying, oh, this was an inconvenience, let me design something?
Absolutely. Oh my God. No, not every single time, but there are times when I think, oh my God, I really wish I had and then I'd be like, oh, actually, why don't I make
Yeah.
one? You know?
Yeah.
You know, there are so many sketches in my sketchbook that sometimes I look at them and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, because I think about something that I wish I had. And then a few months down the line, it just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And those are the things that usually never go into production. But then there are times when there's that one sketch that continues to resonate with you, and then you wait for the perfect moment to make it, and then everything becomes seamless because you've already kind of calculated everything in the back of your mind,
Right.
because the sketch has always been there, you know, and you know already you've been thinking about it, so you know what the details are already, you know but so long as it's there and it's physically there, I mean, you know, in pen and paper, then you can actually kind of dissect it and see what you can do with it. Now there are products that go from sketch to production and it takes like 1 or 2 weeks, you know. But then there are other products that
takes-
like Coco took a whole year to prototype.
Yeah, I've read about it as
Yeah.
well. That's a long journey, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time people think that it's so easy, but sometimes it's
What material
actually
is that made?
It's fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass. So some of them have a gel coating on the fiberglass, and then there's the translucent one, which is my favorite one. It has a resin that's mixed with the fiberglass as well.
So it took 1 year to produce this piece, Coco.
Yeah, because
Her.
her, yeah, we can call her a she. But we had like maybe 50 different mini prototypes and 3D models of Coco, and then we experimented with how a person would sit down, you know, all on the computer, and how much weight it can take, and
Of course.
when it would break, and how much thickness it would, you know. So there was a whole like research process that went
Right.
behind Coco.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what was that? The inconvenience of not being able to rock themselves?
For me, it was actually to pace your thinking. You know, so for me, I always go back and forth in my chair.
Yeah.
You know, so when a chair doesn't have any wheels or it doesn't, I go crazy. So right now I'm going insane.
You're going
Yeah,
very still and stiff.
Speaking of ADHD, right?
but literally, but I like the idea of rocking back and forth because it helps pace my thoughts, you know.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of being able to use it in different ways. So not only indoors on the floor, but you can also put it outside in the garden, by the pool, fill it up with ice, you know, like all of that different stuff that you can use it for.
Our next question, another thing I wanted actually to ask is about all your collaborations, because you had you've done so many with Vacheron and Constantine, with Cosentino.
Yes.
You're part of so many interesting venues. In fact, you're participating again in downtown design, but this time
As a curator.
As a curator for local Emirati. Is it just Emirati?
No, it's
designers?
not just Emiratis.
Or just region.
Yeah, people that are based in the UAE.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's called the UAE Designer Exhibition. It's
UAE.
funny because it's kind of like a full circle moment. I started in the UAE
yeah,
Designer
yeah,
Exhibition.
so
and now-
interesting.
So tell us a little bit about it, about all your
collaborations,
collaborations. This new venture that you're doing with downtown design.
Yeah. So the collaborations, I always say yes. You know, well, I
Yeah.
try to say yes as much as
Yeah,
I
I mean,
can.
even with
A
you,
lot
like
of people say that.
Yeah.
A lot of guests actually say that
Yeah.
it's time for us to say yes
Yes.
to everything.
Yeah, but no, but it's important, you know, because if you don't say yes, then that's a missed opportunity. You didn't even explore it, you know?
Yeah.
So, and especially when you're at the beginning of your career, and I really do believe that I am at the very beginning of my career, you know, when it comes to design.
Yeah, but you've done a lot of things.
Yeah, but that's because I always say yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's because when Cosentino approaches or something, I'm like, yes, let's
Yeah.
do it. You know, when Vacheron's opportunity came about, I was like, okay, yes.
Yes.
You know, it's not something that I've ever done before, but it's something that I would like to explore, and that's where all of the learning comes from. And the more you say yes, the more you learn. So for me, every single collaboration is about learning.
Yeah.
You know. Of course, I mean, it's about brand building. It's about, you have to also look at all of that
course,
other stuff,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the nitty gritty parts of a
Yeah.
business. But the most important part of any collaboration, in my opinion, is the learning aspect of everything, you know? And that's why I always try to collaborate with as many people as possible when it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, like, maybe I won't collaborate with a candy store anytime soon, but you know,
But who knows?
Why not?
who knows?
Why not?
You know?
Well, we might see Coco in one of these venues.
Yeah,
You
who
never
knows?
know.
Yeah,
You never
yeah.
know.
It's
Fill it
true.
up with candy.
Fill it
Yeah.
up with candy.
Candy
Yeah,
is-
there we go.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Yours-
closed the loop. So
Collaborations is so important, obviously. You know, it's a different path, and for me, collaborations is a new way of, you know, freshen up a little bit, because I can get very, we say snowed in Sweden. I don't know if you use that word in English. Snowed in means that
when
you
the
get
snow is, yeah.
covering
Yeah.
you, and you
Yeah.
know,
In
you're-
your routine, daily
in my routine,
yeah.
and you know, and that can get boring sometimes, you know. So collaborations is a fresh way for me to, you know, feel, okay, this was
Uplift.
something fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the way you feel? Obviously, when
Always.
you,
Yeah. I mean, there are ups and downs, you know, with collaborations, because, you know, when two minds work with each other, sometimes it gets difficult.
Yeah.
Because someone has ideas, and then there's another person that has
Yeah.
other ideas, and they're like, no, but why don't you do it this way? You know, and then if you're stubborn, and I'm very stubborn,
Yeah.
I have to admit, you know, but I stay quiet about how stubborn I am.
Yeah. You're like, I'm here to learn.
I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn. And then I come back and I'm like, actually, that was a very good idea. Let's implement it. You know. So there are ups and downs when it comes to collaborations. But yeah, I think that's a very important aspect that I really look forward to every single time.
Yeah.
It really feeds my soul.
talking about downtown design, and you said that it's a closing circle, which I think is very beautiful. You know, in such a young age, you started there, the career, you know, and now being a curator, you must be so proud of yourself. You know, you really have gone a far part, you know, during these years.
Definitely.
You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm very
Yeah.
happy about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I sit down and I look at all of the achievements, it's like sometimes I can't believe it, you know, which is very interesting. And I still don't think that it's real. Sometimes I forget, you know. I think everybody forgets though. There are a lot of people that are just like, okay, actually, I didn't know. You never sit down and think, look at how much I've achieved over
it's
the
like,
past.
what's my next
move?
Yeah.
You know. But I think it's important. So yeah, I'm learning how to do that this year a little bit with the whole curation aspect and the whole closed circle thing.
So talking about the sketchbook, because now we've interviewed a little bit more than a handful of people, you know, during this journey of mine and Valeria's, you know, there is always a book coming in here and there, you know. We've heard that book, and
Little
that,
black book,
black book, or a sketchbook, or it's always a book. Do you feel that this, because I also have a book. I also have a book.
Okay. Well, we didn't know about that.
Yeah,
but
I haven't talked about my book yet.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
my book, it's a dream book, and now it goes back to ADHD again.
It's journaling. It's journaling.
No, but I have it next to my bedside,
Yes.
and I can wake up in the middle of the night and like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me write it down. So I write it down, and then I close it, and then I go back to sleep again. Is there something, because I can just imagine how your sketchbook looks like, you know? It must be a lot of
mess.
different,
It's a
and I'm
complete
sure it's
mess.
not just one sketchbook. I'm sure it's plenty sketchbooks.
I have a lot
Yeah.
of them. Yeah.
Do you often go back into that sketchbook and say, this is my next.
Yeah,
You know?
I do all the time.
Can you tell us about something? I want to know about something in that book.
So actually,
Yeah.
The collaboration with Cosentino,
Yeah.
you know, for me that was a very quick design because I had already sketched it out a while ago. I already knew what I wanted to do. I was just waiting for the perfect moment.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, it's there.
So how long did it take?
To make it,
Yeah.
it was very smooth sailing for me. You know, I was like, okay, here are the renders, here are here's the presentation, and then it was. I already knew exactly how I wanted it to be
Yeah.
made. So it took maybe, I mean, from start to finish, maybe like, I maybe 1 or 2 months. You know, but that's from like scratch, from like design, sketch, all the way to production. You know,
It's pretty fast.
It's
so-
quite
Yeah,
fast.
yeah,
It
it's
was quite fast. And it wasn't a very complicated, well, to me, it wasn't very complicated, the product. Whenever I talk about my products and I try to explain them, I sound crazy. Like, oh, it's 2 trays that sit into each other, but the walls of the trays come out and they become placemats. And
Yeah.
so the way I describe it is not great. I don't do a good job at describing things, but
But I think it was so easy because you are a furniture designer, you know, like with architectural background. Yeah. Because I think it would be much more different for a person who's like, okay, designer or architect, you know, to produce a piece. Oh, how do I do it? What do I do it? What do I put in it? Like the research.
How can it do more than one thing?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always that.
It's
How
always.
can it do more than one thing?
Yeah.
Your future projects.
Yes.
What is next for a MODU Method?
So now
I'm sure you have something in
have-
in your sketchbook.
I have. So we are moving actually.
Oh, you're moving.
Yes,
Oh.
we're moving from the villa. It's time to grow
Oh.
out of it.
Okay.
Inshallah, you know, we're going to be moving to a warehouse. It's going to be a more commercial space. The villa, I mean, to me, it's a place that I really love. You know, it's like a comfort zone for me. But all good things, you know, have to come to an end so that better things can happen.
Yeah.
Right? So we're growing out of that villa now. Because we have to stretch our limbs.
Yeah.
And we want to work, now that we've developed our brand, to a point where even designers are trusting our product, you know, because, I mean, you see this with every brand, you know, the designer doesn't really know whether they want to use that piece of furniture because is it going to do well in that space? Is it good quality? Is it, you know?
Yeah, it's a relatively new product.
Exactly.
And also, I think from design point of view, it's the question of, how fast you can produce it.
Exactly.
This is the main question that I think.
It's always a question,
Yeah.
you know, which is what we're working towards. What's great about us is that we are in the UAE and we make most of the things in the UAE. So our production time is quite fast.
Yeah,
you know,
that's good.
So we're moving into projects now. And we're working with designers and architects and interior designers so that they can kind of place our products, or we custom make different products for them to place in their spaces.
What is the lead time?
I mean, we always keep certain products, we always keep them in stock.
Yeah.
So for example, Spike, we almost always have 10 in stock.
Oh,
so
wow.
if you order one, you can get it the same day or the next day.
Oh.
Okay,
You
cool.
know?
And how about the sofa? Like a majlis looking.
So the sofa,
Yeah.
now we're launching them in different colors as well, but in fabric as opposed to leather. Leather we're doing on custom order. But those ones take around, if you select a different color, it would take around probably three weeks to make, you know?
Okay, that's a
not
great.
bad.
No,
you know?
not at all.
That's not bad at all.
It's actually
normal
really
lead
fast.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
That's if we have the fabric in stock and
Yeah.
everything. And if I tell people 3 weeks. Sometimes I finish it earlier,
Yeah.
but I don't disclose that information.
No, it's better to keep it.
I always do that.
Yeah, I always add a
Safe.
week or two.
Yeah, me
That's
you know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just looking at the production, like a European production of the sofa. It takes much longer than
Yeah.
that. I'm not just even saying about the
Yeah.
shipment
No,
time.
no.
I'm talking about.
It's different. But generally, I tell to be on the safe side, because we're on this podcast, I was being honest. But to be on the safe side, what I do tell my clients is I say a month and a half. 8 to 12 weeks, which is fair,
Yeah.
because they are ordering a custom product. you know? And then, but if you order something that's already in stock with us, we deliver it right away.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it's pretty fast.
Where do you see MODU in 5 years from now? Because I can completely understand the whole, stretching your limbs, time for us to, because if you are in a small space, you will only grow as much as the walls and the ceiling is allowing you. So a bigger space obviously will give you also more possibilities.
definitely.
That's how IKEA did it, by the way.
Really?
He started in his uncle's garage, and he designed his first pieces in his uncle's garage.
Wow.
And then slowly they developed. They grew. I mean, you see now he can't stretch his limbs further than.
No, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
He's already
We're
covered the
more-
world.
Yeah.
He's hugging the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, he was an absolute genius.
Of course, yeah.
Kamprad, he was a genius and a great businessman.
Yeah.
Coming up with the solution of how to actually make the client themselves assemble
And
the
also how
furnitures
to
and
cater.
easily deliver. Yeah, definitely.
Cater to everyone's middle class needs, and this is what.
Definitely. There was a big
the
gap
key
there.
to- yeah, there was a big
there.
gap.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so where do you see you guys in 5 years from now?
5 years.
Yeah.
I really want MODU to grow into a space that always houses a creative community. I want to be able to have a database of maybe suppliers, of books, of magazines that people can always refer to, a space where people can share ideas. So that's always going to be a part of MODU. I want to grow it a little bit also into a hub for new creatives to come and learn from.
Nice.
If they want to develop a product or something. I mean, one day I hope, to be able to assist them in developing their product and maybe
Amazing.
including it in MODU's line, just and saying, oh, it's a collaboration with this
To pass
new designer,
knowledge
to
as
kind of
well.
pass knowledge
Yeah.
and to learn from them as well.
Yes.
Like one aspect of curating this year, I got to learn from so many different designers as well, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Because they come in with fresh minds, and I think it's super important.
Every time when young people come to a company or just fresh off university, they have so many great ideas.
Yeah.
They have so much potential, that is not yet suppressed by the industry.
A fresh mind. Sometimes you
yeah.
just need it.
You need
to
fresh
simplify. So
Everybody needs fresh minds.
just simplify everything, and then you have the answer in front of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe we complicate things in our head, and
Yeah.
Okay, so in the end of each episode, we're asking a question from our previous guest, okay? And funny enough, our previous guest, he was also into furniture, not furniture designer, but furniture business. And the question is, if you could buy, own, or maybe you have it already, one piece of furniture, what would that be?
So it's a very fun piece of furniture.
Yeah.
It's a very silly piece of furniture.
Okay.
And it's one of the most, for me, admirable pieces of furniture ever.
Okay.
And it's the Gufram Praton.
That's a really cool piece.
It looks
Yeah.
like giant grass blades, and it's the comfiest thing on the planet.
And everyone can
you
just-
think it's comfortable?
I think it's comfortable because the moment you fall into it, you're in the most weird position,
Yeah.
but you're being supported by all of this.
I feel like it takes him back to when he went out in the garden and he used to plant his plants, and then he would lay in the grass.
I used to
when he
spend a
was
lot of
kid,
time in
you
the
know?
grass. Yeah.
Previous
That's an
generation.
amazing piece of furniture for you to have.
It's incredible. And
Yeah.
I almost got it. Literally last week, I almost bought it.
in
know
your
where-
next space.
In my
know
next
where-
space.
Yeah.
I know one place that has it here in Dubai.
And I was going to buy it from them.
Yeah.
Yes, but they
Yeah.
sold it.
They sold it.
They sold it to somebody else, but it's okay.
It's not very comfortable, but it's a very interesting piece.
It is a very interesting
Yeah.
piece. I feel like it's comfortable for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
the most perfect 5 minutes
Yeah.
you need for
Yeah.
the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Coco is,
Yeah.
there are some people that think Coco is the most comfortable chair on the planet. And then even though it looks hard, 2 people fell asleep in it. Yeah.
2 people fell asleep in it.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
No, because it has.
No, that rocking
rocking,
feeling is.
yeah.
Oh,
Omar, what would be your question for our next guest?
The next guest, I think I would like to ask the next guest, what keeps you going? You know, everybody has something in their routine, whether it is in a routine or not. You know, everything has that one thing that keeps them going.
This is a good question.
Yeah, and I really want to know what it is.
What is it that actually keeps you going? Is it love for something you do? Is it financial, maybe financial thing?
What
Everyone
drives
has
you?
a different, what drives you, yeah.
Omar, amazing.
Thank
You
much.
so much for
Yeah.
coming. It was an amazing period of listening to what's inside of your sketchbook and inside of your
Yeah.
brain, you know, captivate and capture a little bit of that. Super interesting,
And
man.
you're so positive, you're so full of energy. It's really like, it motivates you.
I
Thank
thought you
so
were
much for
interesting
coming
before,
today.
but now I think you're even more interesting. I now want to sit.
Thank God.
I want to sit down and see that sketchbook.
It's
now.
all part of my plan.
Amazing.
Thank you guys for
Thank you
having
guys.
me.
Well, thank you.